Hidden just a few short miles from a bustling interstate and major railroad lines, and just east of Chicago, lies a natural gem of exquisite beauty. Miller Woods in the Indiana Dunes National Park is a globally rare black oak savanna, a stunning combination of native Midwest prairie grasses and wildflowers, sparkling freshwater ponds and lagoons, and towering trees. The land here rises and falls in gentle parallel ridges, almost like the lapping of waves at low tide. This similarity is no accident. The rising dune ridges and the wetland depressions between them, a feature known as swells and swales, are remainders of the once even more expansive Lake Michigan that washed a far different shoreline thousands of years ago. Imagine, this majestic savanna was once completely underwater.
We're standing in Miller Woods, which is a really unique part of the national park. It's characterized by these long linear wetlands called swales. They're next to these long linear piles of sand called beach ridges. And this pattern of going from swale to beach ridge continues from here in Miller Woods all the way a mile up to the lake. So as Lake Michigan has slowly been retreating, it's been leaving along these long parallel lines of sand and then these long low depressions that are filled with ponds and wetlands. A lot of people don't really realize this, but we are in an ice age, and ice ages have time periods where we're totally covered in ice, and they have time periods called interglacial periods where there's not a lot of ice. So right now, there's not a lot of ice right here, but if you were standing here 20,000 years ago, we'd be under about a mile of ice. These glaciers, they came down from the north, and they went back up and down and up, and over the last 2.5 million years, they've probably come down and up about 25 different times. So these periods of glaciation, and then periods in between where there weren't any glaciers. With this back and forth movement, of course geologic features would have been left behind.
That legacy of the glaciers lives on in the fragile interdunal ponds and pans here. Pans are shallow pools in the sand, and like the black oak savanna around them, pans are both globally rare and endangered. As anyone who has ever tried to build a moat around a sandcastle knows, sand does not easily hold water. It takes just the right conditions for these pools to exist. Habitats like these become endangered for a number of reasons. Any disturbance of the sand can disrupt the pans and their ability to hold water, making it vital that visitors stay on designated trails in the Indiana Dunes National Park. And while development is the most common threat to most forests, black oak savannas also suffered from early efforts to suppress wildfires. That's right, while preventing fires might always seem like the right thing to do, Miller Woods relies on occasional fires to periodically clear out shrubs and underbrush and prevent them from choking out the more delicate prairie plants. Today, park rangers conduct carefully controlled burns to allow for the regrowth the plants and flowers of black oak savanna need to survive.
So this is a habitat type that needs fire in order to survive. Fires happen naturally here for thousands of years. They could start from lightning strikes, they could start from just the power of the sun. They were also started by the Native American tribes that lived around this region for their hunting and also for their agriculture. So the plants that grow around here, they became dependent on fire. This savanna habitat, it needs fire in order to remain a savanna. If fires didn't periodically burn this landscape, it would start to get closed in. You'd get more trees and more shrubs coming in, and the amount of light coming down to the floor here would get reduced and reduced until eventually you're left with a forest. And it's not that forests are a bad habitat or a habitat that we don't want. It's just that this habitat is a savanna, and we want to try to keep it a nice and healthy savanna. So we conduct prescribed burns here every few years so that it stays nice and open and that you get all this kind of dappled sunlight that can come through.
But it takes more than fire to ensure that this precious habitat is preserved for future generations. It takes the ongoing efforts of rangers and volunteers. Kim Swift, the Chief of Environmental Education at Indiana Dunes National Park, works tirelessly to raise awareness of the threat posed by invasive species and support efforts to combat them.
Our restoration program here at Miller Woods has been really active for the last 10 years, and now we are starting to focus more on the wetlands here at Miller Woods, which is going to be really exciting to see, because right now we have some invasive cattail and invasive Phragmites that are creeping in to some of these wetlands, and if they take a hold, they will change the hydrology of the wetlands, and they will crowd out all of the other native species that are more. And so it's a lot of work, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of money. However, if we want these habitats to be healthy, we have to act now, and we have to really work continually to keep them healthy.
Through a unique project called Chronolog, visitors can help in this important task. All they need to do is stop at the Chronolog photo station on the trail, snap a quick picture, and email it to the National Park Service. The park uses these photographs to create a time-lapse record of changes in Miller Woods. As the years pass, this record will be invaluable in evaluating the efforts to restore this fragile environment. The benefits of all this hard work are already evident throughout the woods. In spring and summer, one finds an incredible variety of wildflowers blooming beneath the branches of these majestic oaks in bursts of color like fireworks. Asters provide a wonderful contrast to the bright yellow blossoms of goldenrods. And who could miss the delicate white snakeroot? Or the fiery oranges and reds of these Asclepias tuberosa, perhaps better known by their somewhat unfortunate common name, the butterfly weed. In fact, of the estimated 1,400 species of plants that call the Indiana Dunes National Park home, 287 can be found here in Miller Woods. Of course, with so many flowers blooming, butterflies are not only here in name only. Migrating monarchs find food and shelter here near the shoreline of Lake Michigan, enjoying the nectar of the flowers growing in the savanna, and these marvelous insects share the winds with a multitude of birds. Herons wait patiently for their prey to swim by, while ducks cool their feathers in the clear pools here. Meanwhile, in the air, a shock of yellow darting by announces the arrival of a goldfinch, while a persistent hammering in the distance means a woodpecker has begun looking for its meal as well. Birdwatchers can also thrill to the bright flash of orange of a Baltimore oriole, right here in Indiana, or the distinctive warbling of a wild turkey.
Indiana Dunes offers bird viewing opportunities every month of the year. In the wintertime, we have the birds that stay here and are the insect eaters or the nut eaters, the ones who can go and find the hibernating insects. In the spring, we have tons of bird migration on their way to their nesting habitat up north or stick around and nest here. We've had over 350 different species of birds come through the Indiana Dunes throughout the year. In the summer, we have our nesters, and in the fall, we have the opposite of the spring migration in some ways. We have the birds coming down, not wanting to cross Lake Michigan, and refueling on their way farther south. Miller Woods is one of the rarest habitats in the country. It's an oak savanna that is an oak forest and a prairie that mixes together with the tool of fire to keep it lasting forever. And so this unique, rare habitat is one of those famous and silent habitats that are right in your backyard that you didn't even know about.
But it's not only birds who find a safe haven here. Many animals and amphibians can be found beneath the sheltering trees of Miller Woods. This includes a surprising array of frogs, toads, snakes, turtles, and salamanders. There's even a resident lizard, the six-lined race runner. Its name is well earned, as this small lizard can tear across the sand at a blistering 18 miles an hour. Visitors to the nearby Paul H. Douglas Center for Environmental Education can get a closer look at some of the wood's denizens, including box and snapping turtles, bullfrogs, and milk snakes. The center also offers exhibits and programming year-round designed to highlight the remarkable diversity of the park. The Douglas Center serves as the perfect jumping-off point for the 3 miles of trails running through the remarkable landscape. Paved trails and raised aluminum walkways offer wheelchair-accessible views of the beautiful ponds and wetlands nearby. The Douglas Center also provides a special wheelchair adapter for those visitors who want to travel beyond the paved loop and further into Miller Woods.
we have this item called the Freedom Track, and that's something that you can actually put your wheelchair on, and that can take you on the trails. The only thing we ask that you do is not climb the dune with it, because it's a little bit unstable that way.
An out-and-back trail of dirt and sand leads hikers past peaceful still lagoons and sandy dunes all the way to the shore of Lake Michigan.
The trail system here is really kind of unique. It's one of our longer trails. If you go from the Douglas Center and you hike the trail all the way to the beach, which you can, there and back is a little over 3 miles. It's one of our jewels. I tell you, a lot of people don't think of here in Gary having such beauty, but it does. The diversity here is amazing. And so you'll go from the oak savanna, you'll go through that, go across several ponds, and then all of a sudden it opens up into dunes, and you'll be surrounded by tall dunes as you're going through a lagoon or around a lagoon. And then you start to get into the beach complex, where you're going up and down 4 dunes and then onto the beach. And so you've got all these different areas, different flora and fauna as you go through each one. And that's what I think is so unique and so beautiful about Miller Woods, is its diversity.
Sharp-eyed hikers may spot mink, beavers, and muskrat in and about the water here in the woods, and the evidence of the beavers' hard work is easily visible from the trails. These creatures were once rare in Indiana because of the demand for their fur, but through careful and sustained management beginning in 1935, the beaver made a remarkable recovery. In the winter, beavers eat bark and twigs. The dams that make them famous are not actually their homes, but their preparation for the long winter months. Many of the beavers that live in Indiana actually live in burrows along the banks of rivers, streams, and lakes. As the number of beaver in the woods increase, rangers are carefully monitoring their activity in an effort to preserve this fragile habitat. A visit to Miller Woods is a powerful reminder of the impact human activity can have on nature. Here, the national park is surrounded by major steel and power companies, and during the middle of the 20th century, industry representatives and environmentalists wrestled over the question of how best to preserve the area while also allowing for economic development. Activists like Dorothy Buell, an Indiana schoolteacher and tireless champion of the dunes, fought hard to limit the expansion of industry in this fragile area. She found an ally in Paul H. Douglas, a United States Senator from Illinois, who first introduced legislation naming the dunes a national park in 1958. It would take another 8 years of lobbying and activism before the Indiana Dunes National Lakeshore was founded in 1966. This was only the beginning of the long journey to seeing the Indiana Dunes declared a national park in 2019. Today, the Paul H. Douglas Center for Environmental Education, named in honor of Senator Douglas, welcomes thousands of local school children and visitors.
Douglas Environmental Education Center was built in the mid-'80s, and it is created as our hub for education here in the park. So over the years, we've had thousands of students and teachers come here for field trips and for place-based education opportunities. We do after-school programming here, we do summer programming, we host camps for the day, and we do a lot of really great student and teacher interactions and field trips. But in addition, in the last about 10 years, we have been transforming the Douglas Environmental Education Center into more of a nature center. And it's open to the public 7 days a week now. And we have picnic tables, we have a nature play zone for children to do free nature play. We have live animals in the building for folks to be able to see up close, fish, turtles, snakes, and we have crafts that families can do. And so it's been transformed more into a place where the whole community can come, where visitors can come and relax, spend an afternoon enjoying their park, hiking the trails, have a picnic lunch, and enjoy this great hike that's right here out the back door, which is Miller Woods.
Today, this vibrant center serves as a western gateway to Indiana Dunes National Park and the perfect introduction to the exquisite, unforgettable Miller Woods. The Indiana Dunes Discovery Trail is an incredible natural treasure, and you are an important part of ensuring its future. When you visit, be sure to follow all posted signs and instructions. Visit indianadunes.com to learn about all of the volunteer opportunities and spend time caring for this fragile environment. In addition to the national and state park services, a number of nonprofit agencies work tirelessly to preserve and protect the Indiana Dunes Discovery Trail habitats. Learn more about these important agencies and support their efforts with your charitable contributions. Finally, be a champion for the Indiana Dunes. Stay informed and use your voice to tell the story of this wonderful place. Help ensure that all visitors, the magnificent birds, the migrating butterflies, and friends from around the world can enjoy the Indiana Dunes Discovery Trail for generations to come. Check out the links below to get started.